So the one thing I wanted to put in the conversation here is this idea of like homeschooling seen as like a privilege almost, because you mentioned it a little bit. I have to work. I have to go to work. What am I supposed to do with my kid? I can't just homeschool my kid all day and, spend this time with them because I've got to go make the money to pay the bills, etc. So that's obviously a big part of this question too. What do you say to people that, well, that's easy for you to say, Hannah, I have 3 kids and I've got to work. Like, what can we do? We're kind of stuck in this system, even if we can acknowledge that it's broken, and I still can't get out of it.
Well, first of all, I absolutely abhor the word privilege because it's so victimizing. It's so disempowering. Well, you just have this privilege, so I can't solve this problem. I don't have any patience for that. It's like, no, if you actually care, you can solve the problem. It's hard. It's really hard. I've watched so many families make enormous sacrifices to homeschool their children. My parents drove old vehicles, and when one vehicle stopped working, they weren't in a hurry to replace it. Because my dad was the only one working because my mom was a stay-at-home mom homeschooling us. I've watched parents, families band together to share responsibilities of childcare so that the moms could overlay their work schedules so that one of them at a time was working, but they had both families had the dual income. I know a homeschooling mom who, she was a single mother, and she found a job where she was allowed to bring her kids into the office. Her boss was homeschooling friendly and let her bring the kids in, and she could work all day and the kids could be working on their school, and the kids got an amazing education because they got to learn from all of the people in her office and learn how the real world works. And they're both, in their 20s now, absolutely thriving, really very entrepreneurial, no surprise there. Both successfully building careers. If you want to figure out how to homeschool your children, you can absolutely make it happen. And it's just a matter of prioritization. It's not a privilege thing. It's we want to drive 2 cars, and we want to go on the nice vacation this summer, and we want the bigger house. Historically, people have had, when we lived in a much poorer world overall, people had tons of kids, and they figured out, it's kind of like the argument, well, I don't have enough money to have children in the first place. It's like, you just have a quality of life standard that you're not willing to give up. But do you really care more about your nice new Volvo than you do about the education of your child? Like, is that actually more
steering
important?
Wheel, though. I want my heated seats.
Yeah, but do you want a child that can think? Like, you gotta really look at that. It's an uncomfortable set of questions to ask, both because of the lifestyle sacrifices that you have to make, but also once you take responsibility for your kid's education, that's really scary. Now you're the one, if your kid isn't successful, is it your fault?
Yeah.
Whereas if your kid's not successful and they went to public school, they went through the system, they did all the things they were supposed to do. They're just kind of victims of the system at large. It's a scary thing to look at head on, but I think you have to ask yourself what you prioritize the most, because really, is that heated steering wheel more important than the quality of your child's childhood and their educational foundation that they're going to take with them for the rest of their lives?
Yeah. That's what we do. We try and ask the difficult questions, because there again is a skill that's been lost, like probing, really digging into what's really important. And I love that you brought up this juxtaposition between victimization and radical responsibility, because it's everything in life. And as far as I can see it, looking in now to the industrialized schooling complex, there seems to be a virus of virtuous victimhood. It seems to be celebrated. It seems to be the thing to be done, to point the finger of blaming and complaining and say it's the system and say it's the patriarch or say it's X, Y, and Z, instead of saying, you know what, like you said, things can be really bloody hard. What am I going to do about it? What do I really prioritize? So I think that's probably a skill that you develop by being self-directed and homeschooled and seeing things a little bit differently. Hello friends, if you enjoyed that clip, then you can watch the entire thing by heading to this link over here, or you can find us wherever you find podcasts by searching Radical Health Radio. If there's value here, please hit that like button, let us know in a comment what your biggest takeaway was, and hit subscribe. Support the show as we support you. We'll see you soon.